all of you beloved Schmovillians who thought that after Schmoe would be taking a 2-week hiatus, God bless you. You're gonna be fine.
Gesundheit.
That's a Christian Harloff move. What you just did.
Well,
no, he says God bless you.
You said God bless you.
Oh, did I?
You said God bless you, and I said Gesundheit.
I don't remember saying it.
Okay, well.
Anyway,
what a great start.
you can put your suspicions under the rug. We're gonna be
What? Are you okay?
We're here. We're back. Thank you so much for joining us. I think there was a time during the Schmoeville After Show, those days where I would have kind of welcomed a week off from doing the show, but now I'm a little OCD about taking a break.
Because we're so critical about Beardo.
No, not because of that.
That's how I feel about it.
For one, to talk about that for a second, we've done consistently so many podcasts. Like,
you mean in general, beyond After Schmoe?
In general,
yeah.
Especially, I've done so many After Schmoes, but in general, we've podcasted so many times that they should be begging us to take a break.
Oh yeah,
like Christians should be worried about our health. Like, please,
does he know? Does he know how much we do? I don't think he does.
I don't think. No, I don't think he has a clue what we do.
Yeah.
I don't think he has any idea what Sight and Sound is. He'll say, "You gave me a couple episodes to listen to." Yeah, like a year ago. It's totally different. Anyway, that's a whole other conversation. But yeah, I'm not paranoid about taking a week off, except for the fact that numerically our episode count lines up with theirs.
Right.
So I don't want to mess that up. I like it.
I agree with you 100%. Unless we just skip 10 just to make up for it.
Like, we're going to be recapping episode 302, and it's the 32nd episode of After Schmoe. Right. I think it's funny.
Yeah.
That they've done 10 times more episodes.
Our last number will always match their last number. But look, here's my thing about the pre-taped episodes. I'm thankful that they put them out in general, that they just go ahead and tape them, and we do have something.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's a little bit difficult to do this show centered around shows like that are pre-taped, just because often they're more of a straightforward podcast. They have one topic that they sort of revolve around, and we've talked about it before, but sometimes it's hard to do an after show about them, just because we don't want to just add to the conversation they've already had. Yeah.
And so we'll talk about the show on the other side of the intro, but or the theme song, excuse me. But the last thing I want to say right out the gate here, just a massive congratulations to Christian.
Thank you. Sorry.
To Christian, I'm glad that I didn't even realize it was a daughter. Did he announce if it was a boy or a girl back in when he announced all this?
I
don't remember.
I'm honestly confused by the entire timetable. Just because it seemed like he had just announced that he was having another baby, and then
no, it didn't.
He has another baby.
You said that last week.
You know what?
You thought it happened.
I'm not talking about what the actual timetable was. I'm talking about my perception of the timetable.
Well, it's interesting because his hiatus, his time off, was at the beginning of the pregnancy. I think that's the most strange thing about it. But then again, that could have been a cover-up.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm taking a break for
the
my wife's
baby's
pregnant.
The baby's inception was also after Schmoe's inception, at least in the current state that it's at.
Yeah.
Was this version of After Schmoe conceived in Christian Harloff's bedroom?
I just want to go back to the congratulatory statements.
Thank you.
God. Anyway, I'm glad. Look, there was a moment between you and I about 15 minutes ago that I wish was recorded on the podcast, but I was scrolling through Instagram and saw the picture of him in scrubs with the face mask holding his daughter, and I saw the name announcement, and oh my God, I busted out laughing and said, Jay, you'll never guess what Christian named his daughter, and you guessed it.
It's a very Kentucky name. Maisie Ray Harloff.
It kind of is, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It reminds me of Cody Ray Hecker. He who
we're gonna do this
no longer
again?
be named. I'm just saying, okay? Let me have my moments.
Anyway, Christian, I'm glad. I'm happy for you. And
is it Maisie or Macy?
Maisie.
Maisie. That's
yeah. Macy. I feel like
Macy.
that's how
Maisie.
Natasha might pronounce it. Macy. Natasha is one of those people that says didn't instead of didn't.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'm fascinated when Natasha hosts Movie Talk because I listen to those kind of words. Anyway, what a dumb point. Let's just get to the music. Welcome to the 32nd episode of After Schmoe. My name is Ryan Snelling.
My name is Jaye Williams, and this beer tastes pretty good.
What kind of beer is that?
It's a Kentucky vanilla barrel cream ale. I'm not much of a beer drinker. In fact, I'll probably be asleep by the time this podcast is over.
It's a Maisie Ray ale?
That's right. It's a Maisie Ray ale. Coin it. Put it out.
That could also be a Southern cocktail. The Maisie Ray. God, we suck. This is exactly what I want. This whole show, I want it to be this weird and this strange, and it will be.
We don't record a lot of after schmoes at my house unless we've done some on video before.
We did the video once, yeah.
Yeah, but the door's shut. The dogs could go crazy at any second.
Yeah,
it's getting warmer as the more I talk.
This is going to be not that we aren't always laid back, but this will be more laid back because. We have a lot less to talk about. This will be mostly a Q&A episode. We'll briefly touch on Collider. We'll briefly touch on the pre-tape show, and then we'll just answer some the Q&A. We got a ton of submitted questions in the Schmoeville Facebook group. So thank you so much to everyone who participated in that. We love you.
Can I tell you one reason why I legitimately do love Q&As? It's because it sort of gives me a nice marker as to who might be relatively new, or at least from the last time we did a Q&A, because we're getting a lot of the same questions.
Yeah, which is fine.
It's 100% fine.
Yeah,
I mean, I think we're flourishing. So
and we did like Q&A and stuff. We did a Q&A for Sight and Sound, so it's not the same. It's not the same group. I mean, we have a lot of crossover, but so yeah, it's not.
And some of the questions are a little bit more inside baseball than stuff that you would maybe ask in a more general Q&A.
And depending on the question, we might have an updated or different answer, too. So you just never know.
For sure.
So, yeah, we'll do some Q&A. You know why I love Q&A?
Why is that?
Because it's about me.
Of course. I knew the answer to that. I didn't want to put you out there like that, but you went ahead and did it yourself. So,
no shame. So the first thing that I want to say.
Yourself. You're awful full of yourself.
It depends on the subject.
Yeah, I love how that was Christian's first impression of me, but that's definitely more of your thing.
I'm the most insecure, arrogant person probably that you might ever meet. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I think it's funny that my nonchalant attitude was taken as being full of himself.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't you think that's an accurate portrayal of me? Just very nonchalant about things. Like,
I mean, I think there are things that you are full of yourself for.
But, 100%.
But
I can be on my Kanye shit. Absolutely.
But that's not, that's not something that would come to mind immediately if like, oh, Jaye Williams, he's really full of himself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Okay. Plus, everybody's the same.
Oh yeah, is that right?
Everyone is full of themselves. I don't know. I think. It's like when people ask you to describe someone, like, hey, do you know so-and-so? I don't know. What does he look like? I don't know. Everybody looks the same. What are you going to get out of me telling you? Guy with brown hair? Okay, there's 80% of the population. It's like that.
It's a fair point.
Shaking your head. This is what I like. This weird show. We're so relaxed. We're also going to vape on the podcast openly.
Absolutely. It's just it's a staple. It makes me feel a little bit of like a bad boy. I feel like a rebel of SK Plus. I mean,
I feel
they drink on the Wangers show. And
Yeah.
that's cool. I get it.
I feel the exact opposite. I feel like a tool. Like, think of how many times. Like, do you remember that time we went to the ramen place and we went outside to take a vape break? So you and I were just standing there on the corner.
It took
vaping.
forever.
It did, but my point is that's like I felt like a tool.
I get it.
Like we were also waiting for our food for like an hour.
Yeah,
but
it was something that like
I wouldn't blame someone who walked by and saw us out standing at their best friends vaping. Like that's.
It was something
lame.
that Beanie Harloff looking out the window would have done.
Yeah.
Emo Harloff would have done that.
Yeah, I get
I'm going
that.
to take a cigarette break. Has Christian ever been a cigarette smoker? I feel like at one point he had to be.
I'm
Did he
gonna
Did he
say
smoke
no.
and drink in college at Florida State?
Did he drink in college?
And
Probably.
smoke cigarettes?
Maybe socially, but I don't think he was ever addicted.
Okay.
Okay, very good. The first thing I want to bring up is Mama Sheridan.
Okay.
Because
let's talk about her.
Brett sent me a message earlier this week.
Yeah, I don't know how this
And,
went down.
It was just, hey, this happened, and he said she was in visiting, which is a shame because she could have been on the show, but he had to sit out another week, and this was pre-taped, so we missed another Mama Sheridan appearance on the Schmoe's No Live show.
I feel like it's been legitimately forever since we've gotten Brett on the show, and I know he's popped in.
Yeah,
like since before he was sick. I'm sorry, from when he got sick to now he's been on, but it just feels like it's been forever.
he's been on, I think, twice since he's been fully recovered, but anyway. Not to the same capacity. I don't even remember has he done a Brett to the Future? I don't know. Probably.
He did.
Anyway, so we missed out on a Mama Sheridan appearance, but Jay and I got a message from Brett, and Mama Sheridan showed up, and she was wearing a Sight and Sound shirt. That is
Our most popular shirt.
That is incredible to me.
Yeah.
And I'm not kidding. Like, I was so shocked, and I don't know if she's listening to this. I don't know. She doesn't really have a reason to listen to this episode since we're not covering Brett really. But someone relay the message to Brett and Mama Sheridan that I am just extremely shocked and thankful, and I can't believe that. That blows my mind that she did that on her own. I mean, as far as I know, I don't really have details on it other than she was there wearing the shirt.
I mean, absolutely. A big thank you. And, you guys listen to this. You can get your Sight and Sound
Oh,
shirts at
come
sightsoundpod.com.
Oh, come on.
Can help make the show better.
Doesn't that just blow your mind, though?
Yeah, I think the thing that
like-
I really want to know is, did she buy it for the trip to surprise, to make this connection, or had she bought it and been wearing it and just so happened to be wearing it when she showed up? That's how I like to think about it.
I guess either way, it's ridiculous that we were on her mind, and the fact that she wanted to support us. I mean, that's just so incredible to me.
Yeah.
But I think it makes more sense that she just this is such a weird conversation. I think it makes more sense that she just wanted to support us other than like, I'm going to buy this shirt to show Brett when I get there. Like, I don't think that sounds weird to me.
I think
But I get it's all weird though.
The thing that I appreciate about it is that it was done quietly. I appreciate the fact that Brett sent us the picture, but the fact that she didn't just, she didn't buy it and
she didn't tell us.
Yeah, like I think that's great. I think that's really cool. But please, if you do buy a shirt, share it with us. We'd love to see it.
Yeah, I haven't stopped thinking about that gesture. I just think that's amazing. So again, thank you so much. She's the best. Brett, we love you. Do you have any kind of housekeeping before we get into the Collider discussion?
Not really. I guess if we're talking SK Plus stuff, congratulations to the Schmoe Rundown guys for celebrating 1 year. Also, thank you to them for the shout out. It's nice to even have the tiniest part in that podcast, just making their logo and whatnot. And I said this in the comments, but big shout out to Brian Ward. I think he's done a fantastic job. Not only the stuff that he does, I love seeing week to week the things that he does with that logo, and I think he does a fantastic job, obviously, with the Schmoe stuff. So congrats to them. Missed Beardo this week.
Have you listened to the first episode of The Meaning of yet?
I did. I listened to it as soon as it dropped. I think this could be fiercely debated, but I think I was the first comment. I'm not this guy, but I did the first comment on YouTube because I wanted to say first ever ? And look, here's the only thing I'm gonna say about it.
Because we've been kind of hyping this up. We were excited to have these two people finally have their own show on SK Plus. We've been really proud of Ace lately with his takes on the live show.
100%. Here's the thing I'm going to say about it. One, welcome to the SK Plus family. You are now, you have targets on your back. You are fully...
You have volunteered yourselves to be criticized on this show.
Absolutely, 100%. We don't just cover the Schmoe live show. We cover Collider and we cover SK Plus. But look, in all seriousness, it was a fantastic episode. I love they started off with a Darren Aronofsky deep dive. I'm a massive Darren Aronofsky fan. I'm very familiar with all of his work. And it was just a really good podcast. And I said this... I think I tweeted about it and I posted about it on the Sight and Sound Facebook group. But I said, if you and I doing Sight and Sound, even this show, are just the guys sitting around talking, just the everyday people that anybody else could hang out with, they are legitimately the polar opposite. Like they, I mean, they had just some super in-depth conversations,
researched, probably,
100%, research.
Plus,
they brought quotes and stuff to it, like these graphics, and that's great. And it's just a constant reminder that both sides of the coin can exist. Like I could never, if you ever hear me say stuff like, "Well, I've researched this," blah blah, that's not me. That's not me. That's not how we podcast.
Definitely. I mean, that's kind of what I expected, though. I haven't listened to the episode yet, and there's not a thing to that. I'm going to listen to it tomorrow.
It's fantastic.
I'm going to listen to it tomorrow, and I'm excited to hear about it.
Big props to RB3 legitimately producing the show while doing the show. He was sitting there messing around with a Zoom. You don't have to do that. All we do is we make sure we're around the same level, and then
add a compressor.
And then that's all you got to do. He's like, well, actually, no, you need to. We know.
We were joking, but I mean,
100%.
How are we going to criticize that show?
No,
I mean, it's just
it was fantastic, and video.
I'm sure it's great.
The first episode on video.
Yeah, that's great. Awesome. So anyway, congratulations to them. I'm very excited for that show. Can't wait to listen to it. You know, I've been busy. I haven't listened to any SK Plus. So
also no wangers this week. I think a 3-hour Sight and Sound after Schmoe.
It did very well.
It did do very well.
People
like those countdowns, and I think people like the fact that it was a little bit more, maybe not as topical, like news wise, but we do those. Excuse me, every now and then.
The after Schmoe views are falling.
I think that has to do with I don't know. I have my theories.
I have no fucking idea.
You want to hear my theory?
You have your theories?
I mean, my only theory is I think the live our show comes on the back of a few things.
This show it's a symbiotic relationship.
100%. But not just with the live show.
We're a leech. We're literally sucking the blood from the live show.
Yeah, I mean, there are other shows on SK Plus that could exist on their own feed, but it would be very difficult, I think, for us to do anything else in addition. Like, we could have guests on and have a standalone podcast, but it would be more difficult for us. Maybe not now that we're covering more Collider stuff, but our show is dependent on the live show's, success, and it's been a little bit patchy in terms of, like, we're no Christian this week, no Christian and Mark this week.
Yeah.
And pre-recorded, all that stuff. It's just been a little bit patchy. Also, I think, too, movie news, movie stuff in general, it's been a little bit slower as of late, too. I think we're gearing up for the big fall push. I think it's going to be a very successful fall as well. And just anything going on with Collider is also dependent.
I actually think the Collider discussion that we do makes the show more exclusive in a way. Like, I think it makes it even more difficult for people to come in because not everybody watches the same shit. Like we do it because we're watching everything, so we might as well have the conversation.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like I know that there's a Collider Facebook group that I'm in, the Movie Talk Facebook group, and I've joined it and I've been feeling it out. I don't know. I don't know if they're gonna embrace the show. Like if I start putting it out there, I might give it a try and see if that works. But
the way that I view our Collider discussion, I know in the previous iterations of this podcast, you guys literally went beat by beat for every single show, and that's just not really how we do it. We sort of pick out the highlights and the things that maybe the biggest talking points, if you will.
Yeah. So let's talk about Collider. Where the hell is comic book shopping? All right, so we got that out of the way. Let's get into the Schmoe No Show number 302 recap. Again, this was a pre-taped episode, and
actually, real quick, I did have one thing on Collider that I did legitimately want to bring in.
You ruined the integrity of my joke.
Sorry. I like the fact that Frosty was on an episode this week. Doesn't happen a lot. Got to hear his Blade Runner takes. And I stand by this. You know, I'm more new than most, especially more new than you and a lot of other people. But, man, he's good. Man, he's good on the microphone. Like, I want to hear more from him on camera or on a microphone. And I've never checked out this Collider podcast that I guess exists somewhere.
He's not on that.
Okay. Well, he needs a podcast. Does he have a podcast? Somebody let us know. I'm sure somebody's like, well, actually.
He doesn't.
Come on, Frosty. You're great. I also love when he interviews people. The questions that he asks, I feel like people just don't ask sometimes. I legitimately think he's fantastic. Did you catch him on Movie Talk? Okay. Fair enough. He's shaking his head. Yes. He says nothing.
I'm just mad you ruined my joke.
Sorry.
I thought about it in the car on the way
Go ahead.
here.
I'm literally sweating right now. Do you feel how warm it is in here?
I'm wearing my Kanye sweatshirt. So, anyway, let's talk about this show again. Okay. Number 302, pre-taped. Do you have a stream of consciousness notes?
And now it's time for your Schmoe's No Stream of Conscious Notes, brought to you by SiteSoundPod.com. And that's it.
Yes,
for your Schmoe's No Stream of Conscious Notes, brought to you by SiteSoundPod.com.
I was praying to God that's what you were gonna do. We did not plan that. That's amazing. Yeah. So I don't know what it was. We texted each other. And we just had a feeling like it's an hour-long show. I just have a feeling that there are no notes will be had.
Right.
And, you know, an hour went by, and I did actually come up with a few things, but they're not discussion points here.
One of the most fascinating things that I took away from this episode is trying to figure out exactly when it was recorded. I think it was recorded on a Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Because on Movie Talk that exact same day, Mark had just talked about how he had literally just watched Blade Runner for the very first time, but on the show, he was embarrassed by the fact that he hadn't seen Blade Runner.
Yeah.
So that's always interesting. I also feel like maybe it was sometime around noon, and the only reason I have any reason to think that is because Ken came in eating chips. That's the only reason I can take away from that.
I feel like they always go out to lunch. So that might have been a midday snack, Jay.
Could have been. I don't know.
But maybe
not
saving money.
Not the healthiest choice, though. Sour cream and onion, Lay's potato chips. Come on, Ken. You got to cut out those carbs. Not that you need it. You look great. That's not what I mean by that. I'm just saying. There are better snacks.
I mean, I think Ken's doing fine if he can date Grace. So.
Why would you perpetrate something like that? How dare you? You want to tell about how you tried to confirm that?
Yeah.
I'm going to throw you under the bus.
So, you know, I'm not going to... In the Q&A that we got, someone asked, like, why aren't you... No, that's not true.
I've noticed
it was tweeted at me.
I've noticed it quite a bit.
People have brought it up to us. Why don't you talk about this Ken
and
Grace
I like
thing?
that. I like that people
Yes.
are relying on us thinking that we are more in the know. And to a certain extent, maybe we are, but also, we're also just very perceptive.
Oh, I'm Pandora's box.
Oh, yeah?
I could just be... you could... I can't think of it.
Well, I'll be honest with you.
I know things.
I agree with you, but it's also fascinating for me to
Yeah.
just sort of be the one to observe it.
So my hand to God, this is me being 100% serious. I have zero clue if they're dating. Part of me isn't really fascinated by that though. Like, it's really interesting. And like I gave you my own theory, which is that we talked about it. So we talked about the fact that both of these people just out of nowhere now are randomly vocal about having a significant other,
right,
while not stating who that person is. And I find that to be a very strange and odd behavior. But that is also something that's something that anyone who went to the school of Christian Harloff would do, because like they made that whole thing up with Miri and Christian dating, and just like, and then the Bonnie Somerville hating Katie Sackhoff. Like people will fake relationships if Christian's like, yeah, that's a good storyline. So I mean, they could just be messing with us.
Oh, 100%. Well, here's what I have to say about it, and this is so. 100% they have the right to keep this private. I get why they would want to do that. Look, this is coming from a guy who, when I got a divorce, shocker if no one knew that, I didn't tell. The only people I told at work were my immediate coworkers in my department, and I told no one else.
It's just a thing.
So much so that 2 years ago, I was dating somebody else at the time, and they came into my work, and the person that worked next to me said, "Well, I thought you were still married." And I'd been divorced for 3 years.
I wanted them to have texted your ex-wife saying that I think Jay's cheating on you.
Yeah, absolutely. That would have also been hilarious. Anyways,
that would have been great.
So my only take away from it is the fact that if you want to keep it private, that's 100% fine. But I've listened to Knapsack Files, I've listened to Ken talk and this and that. He does talk about his mystery significant other quite a bit. So it is, but I just find it interesting. It's not a point of criticism.
So look,
or anything like that.
I mean, that's not. I'm curious who it is. I'm curious if that's true.
Right.
But that's not.
As long as it's not Perry.
I just don't want to make it a whole thing on here. Like, I don't want to always talk about it and things like that. Like, but I'm not gonna lie though. So I messaged Christian.
You messaged Christian, and that surprised me. But how did this conversation go?
So I said, Christian, how do I handle the whole Grace and Ken dating thing? And again, this is me trying to uncover the truth. He says, what do you mean? I said, well, people expect me to talk about this on the show.
Inquiring minds want to know.
Yeah. He said, yeah, so when was that rumor announced exactly? And so I knew right then and there that I couldn't do anything. Again, he boxed me out. He's very good at boxing me out. So I said, God damn it, Harloff, I was trying to trick you, and he gave me nothing. So, Schmoeville, I got nothing for you. Moral of the story, hand to God, I genuinely don't know what's going on.
Yeah, so quit asking us. We don't know.
Yeah.
But please keep asking us, because it makes us feel good. Like we should. Like, you know what? Ryan and Jay would know. We're going to ask them.
Yeah. So a few things that I want to discuss here. Copster at the main table, it's awesome. This is easily my favorite Jay Washington appearance on anything that I've ever seen.
He's a commanding personality. Like,
he is.
And that, I think, from the get-go is a little strange, just because we talk about the curse of the fourth chair all the time, and obviously Adam, I'm sure we'll talk about Adam being there, but Jay Washington, whenever he's anywhere, he really does command a presence. And I think just because the show itself is so big, there's so many personalities on it, it seems like there's a little bit of a competition, but he is such a big presence that it just immediately, when Jay Washington speaks, he is making it known that he is the one speaking.
Think about how quick his rise was in the Schmoedown, and not necessarily as a competitor, but just as someone who's involved. Like, he just skyrocketed to the top in the Schmoedown. Like, now he's a manager, and he's just a huge presence now. Just
I was about
out
to say,
of nowhere.
I was about to say, overall, if I had one word to describe Jay Washington, not just on the Schmoedown where he could quote unquote play a character, but he's just a personality. Whatever he's doing, whether it's a personality on the Schmoedown or a personality just on something like this. And I think it's very valuable to see him outside of that, outside of that realm, to know that wherever Jay Washington on the Schmoedown ends and outside of the Schmoedown he begins, I think it's very consistent.
Right.
His personality.
I just think it's interesting that, like, Finstock
Is that Tom Dagnino's new like convenience store chain?
Yeah, Finstop.
The Finstop.
Yeah, Finstock sort of became what he is over time in the Schmoedown. Like there was a small, but he still progressed to where he is now. And Jay Washington one day was just like, yep, on the same level. I just think that's interesting
for sure. And I think his experience in pro wrestling in general makes that a very easy transition.
Is Adam Smith a beardless Jason Inman imposter?
I don't know. I'm wondering.
It's yes. It's not. I don't know. It's yes.
I'm wondering how much more Adam is going to be involved in something like this, because Christian popping into the show, stating that maybe we were in safe hands while he was gone, I sort of took that as being like Adam was going to be on there more. Let me just say this as somebody that has been podcasting regularly for the last few years. Adam's voice is amazing.
He should have a podcast with Frosty.
Yeah, what is this? Oprah, you get a podcast. You get a podcast.
Oh, yeah.
You get a podcast.
So the thing about that, unfortunately, because I thought he did great last night, and Ellis mentioned that he had been on prior, but there's no history lesson this week, so I don't actually know if that's the
sorry,
case.
Christian. Both of your I rewarded the birth of your new child with neither of your two favorite segments.
Hopefully he appreciates what you did with that, because that's what I wanted you to do, and you did it, and you nailed it.
It was out of love.
Huh?
It was out of love. I really did enjoy this episode. There just wasn't a lot for me to take notes from.
Yeah, but forget all that. It's about the bit. It was good. So anyway, I don't know if that means Adam's going to be around. I mean, Cody, they're both engineers, and Cody isn't on anything ever, hardly. Adam has done engineering for the live show, but I think the difference is they recorded this, it was pre-recorded during Collider hours, so I think that's probably what led to him being on the show, but anyway. They had some other people come in too, like Ken stopped by and Roka came in.
My new fascination in the Collider Studios, we talk all the time about different things. Like, I'm curious now if anybody has to take smoke breaks, if anybody's addicted to cigarettes. I want to know who smokes weed. Also, I want to know what everyone's schedules are.
You want to know what everyone's vices are.
Well, the vices for sure, but I want to know what their schedules are, because we heard that Mark goes home after movie talk pretty frequently, and I just want to know what everybody's schedule is. I don't know why. I'm curious.
Maybe if we had a behind the scenes type show on Collider, maybe we could kind of get to the bottom of that.
So I would love to sit down with Mark Fernandez one day and talk to him, but people would be so weirded out by some of the questions I would ask him. So Mark, what time does Ken Knapsack go to lunch? Like, it would be stuff like that. I mean, Mark Fernandez, look, you have an open invitation anytime you want to come on After Schmoe.
I'm fascinated by it, because if I'm Mark Fernandez, I would jump at every possible chance I could. I would be on screen. I find it fascinating that I've never seen him speak.
Yeah.
Have you?
Well, I mean, I've seen him on behind the scenes stuff for Collider, but yeah, never talking.
Yeah, I've seen him standing over there in the background, but
I follow him on Instagram. He's very fun to follow on Instagram. Rubs shoulders with and does some really cool shit.
His handle is Governor Backwards.
That's right. Ravengaj or something like that. Roger, I don't know, whatever that is.
So I thought that this was originally pre-taped because Christian was going to be having the child. Like, I thought that this was the due date, and then I realized that it was because
I didn't think that.
I know.
I'm just saying, like, because of my timetable unawareness.
Oh.
I thought it at first, but I was like, there's no way he's having the kid now.
But then we found out that it's of course, because of the Back to the Future screening that they had, which I hear went great. But, so I'm wondering, I started thinking, like, do you think Christian arranged for his wife to have the baby during a week where they pre-taped the show? Like,
well, of course.
Now's our chance, honey. Let's get that C-section going.
Of course, yeah, of course that's what happened. I was not privy to the knowledge, to sort of go back on our whole in the know thing. I texted you. I said, "Did you know this was pre-taped?"
I knew.
I had no idea.
They announced it earlier, like on Movie Talk or something.
Of course, the episode was good, but I was a little bit like kind of bummed out about it. Like I was, there's something electric about watching the show live. I don't know how many people listening to this actually do actively listen or watch the live show live, but you and I do as much as we possibly can. And I had just gotten a nice Subway sandwich. I sat down and I realized it was pre-taped, and I was kind of bummed out about it. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Sorry to hear that.
It's okay. I ended up recording my own podcast instead. Record Sight and Sound music instead of watching.
It just didn't matter. It wasn't
exactly.
It wasn't an obligation.
Exactly.
So you just did it on your own time. Even though this was a ragtag crew, I haven't seen any of these people interact with each other in this capacity. They had so much chemistry together, making fun of Adam and how he was talking, and he told that great story of being mugged for the Louisville Slugger, and I just thought they were all awesome together.
Yeah, it was a different sort of vibe, a different sort of energy,
but it just worked.
Let me ask you a question. Do you think Cobster's presence at the table versus back in the Wangers, production section, do you think it's significantly different? I felt he came across a little bit more tame. He was in almost a better spirits, better moods. Not that he's not in good spirits, but he's always sort of on edge, sort of more hot-headed, maybe because it was a taped show.
I think, to answer your question, I think he is, but I mean, it's an obvious way.
Right.
It makes sense. There's a whole lot less you have to worry about
when it's not live. Yeah,
it's probably more of like they're sitting at lunch, like, hey, when we get back, do you just want to do the Schmoe's No Show? Yeah, okay, we'll do it. I mean, it's different than figuring out what the entire 2 hours is going to be, who's going to come in, who's going to come out, what kind of things are they going to arrange. I mean, it's just a whole lot less when you do this type of, and so yeah, I'm sure that he just wasn't nearly as stressed as he usually is, but at the same time, I mean, he had more of an open forum. He probably talked the least out of the 4 people there, but he was still very much a part of this episode in a way that he isn't typically.
Yeah, I actually do find it fascinating, and hats off to Cobster. I think Cobster has such a big personality to sit there at that table and has so many great points. Like, I legitimately love it when he does make his voice heard. I think he has some really interesting takes anytime the show is live, and he sort of cuts in with his opinions. But he also is and he's done so many of these, that he's so aware of how the rhythm of how the shows go, when to get involved, when to not get involved, and when to sit back. And that's a skill, man. That's a skill whenever you're recording something like that, a podcast, when to know when to jump in and when to just sit back and let other people have the spotlight. And
I'm happy he gets to go to New York.
Absolutely.
He's excited about getting the pizza. I'm sure.
I know. Why was that his first go-to?
I'm
it's
sure
always about the pizza with Cobster.
He's excited to go to the Sbarro's down there.
The Papa John's. That Papa John's again, they love so much at Star Wars Celebration.
I texted Ellis a little bit before we hit record. He hasn't responded yet. I don't know if I'm going to get an answer, but in all caps in my notepad here in my phone, who in the hell is that guy bringing out Optimus Prime? Okay, it was either you don't say a word during your stream of consciousness notes, or you had that exact same thought. I was hoping for those 2 outcomes.
Well, look, you and I have the exact same reaction anytime someone is on camera that we do not recognize a collider.
Any explanation.
In fact, I don't think it was this episode. It might have been something else. It might have been like a behind the scenes. So just some random person just walking around in the background of the studio.
Yeah.
Who are these people?
There's that
stick a camera in front of their face.
That one lady who had the story about the ducks statue. Did you see that episode of Behind the Scenes?
No.
She had like the statue of a goose that doesn't have a beak or something that she got from somebody at a yard sale.
Why in the hell would you ever buy that?
I don't know. Anyway, I don't know who that is. I don't know who it is.
Yeah, I don't know who that guy was.
And every time I go to try to find out who these people are, I don't get any response. How great was Ellis's Cody impression?
You know what?
it was so subtle, it was so small and quick, but I'm like, oh my god, fucking nailed it.
I need to legitimately tell you how I experienced this. I was at work listening to the episode. I was deep in the middle of doing something else, and he did that impression. And in the middle of typing something out, I stopped and said, "That was a really good impression," and immediately went back to doing what I was doing. Like it was
awesome.
That on point.
It was great. Cary Grant is simply not a bigger movie star than Tom Cruise. He's just not.
Yeah, there were a few names that were thrown around there. I can't remember all of them. Actually, I can't remember hardly any of them off the top of my head. The Tom Hanks one was probably the one that I was like, that's a good call.
What they ended up doing, and I don't think anybody ever picked up on it, but they went from Cary Grant to Harrison Ford to Tom Cruise, and I'm like, you basically just followed the torch. I mean,
right.
Cary Grant was first, and then Harrison Ford, and then Tom Cruise. I'm like, I guess they all are, but I don't think any of them are still bigger than Tom Cruise. I mean, that's just how I feel about it. But then again, he's not even the one that's part of my generation. Like The Rock would be more so my generation.
Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yes.
And that's a person I think with more time, that name is even further into consideration. But right. Christian doesn't want us talking about this.
We can't. What do I always say? We can't critique the critics.
Oh, we can, but we can't give our opinion on movies.
That's pretty much all I got.
Yeah, I appreciate these episodes every now and then. I think the thing that was sort of sitting in the back of my mind that I was, again, a little bit more bummed out about is that the fact that next week is also a pre-tape show. And, I like it. I welcome them. But I just feel like, and I said this when we were talking about how this show's, views and plays and popularity and whatnot really does rely on the live show itself, is that I just feel like ever since Comic-Con, the show has been so patchy in terms of like I don't think any two episodes back to back have been like the exact same. Like Christian and Mark both there.
It's been a while.
Yeah. I mean Christian and Mark, Brett to the Future, Ken with the news. Like those are like the four big cornerstones I feel like of the Schmoes No Live show right now, and I don't feel like we've gotten those things two episodes consecutively in a really long time.
Yeah. So anyway, our brief discussion here, it's not commentary on the episode. I actually would just much rather get to the Q&A.
Yeah, for sure.
Since we have this opportunity. So you ready to get started?
Yeah, I don't have the questions pulled up in front of me.
I
did read them, just sort of skimming through them to prepare a little bit. So yeah.
Again, thank you so much to all the Schmovillians who participated in this. First up, our boy Ralph Lenardic. He wants to know, will there eventually be After Schmo t-shirts? Love you. I'll start with this. So I would love for an After Schmo t-shirt to exist, and I'm not going to act like there have been no discussions about this. Like I haven't talked to Christian about an After Schmo t-shirt. That hasn't been a thing. But I have zero interest in just handing over a design for the Schmoes No store.
Right.
If we were to do an After Schmo t-shirt, we would either get all of the profits for the design, or we would just host it on the Sight and Sound TeePublic store. I mean, that's my, and the only reason why I'm saying that, and I'm not saying that like I'm not trying to sound like a stick in the mud or like I'm putting my foot to the ground, but it's like, I mean, I've done this for so long, and I just feel like that's, as far as payment goes, I think that makes a whole lot of sense that we at least get the t-shirt money. You know what I mean? So that's where I'm at with it, but that's also at the same time that's not the reason why we haven't done it yet. We just simply haven't talked about it.
Yeah, I think the quickest answer is really it's just a logistical thing, basically figuring out how it would be done, making sure it could be done, But, just from a design perspective, I mean, anytime I design something and design a logo, I also think about how it can be implemented into other things. And I think the After Schmoe logo is a very t-shirt design friendly logo. Like I could easily see it in like a navy blue on a heather gray, or a yellow on a navy blue, or a black with the red, whatever it could be. It could be one of those t-shirts you could get in a multitude of different color combinations.
Yeah. It looks good.
Yeah. Hopefully it doesn't get taken down like our Game of Thrones shirts did on Sight and Sound.
Kristen Smith, she asked where's comic book shopping. Kristen, just to let you know, you are 100% the inspiration behind my Collider segment joke from earlier in the show, so thank you for that. Lucas...
Schilbach,
yes. I was going to say, I feel like Schnepp pronounced that great earlier in the week.
Fellow Fighter and the Kid listener.
Favorite Schmoedown players and thoughts on how you do as a team or in the singles in the Schmoedown. Favorite Schmoedown players? I don't have any interesting answers really, other than I'm always cheering on Christian and Ellis, obviously, but they're also not as prominent. Someone I'm really liking right now is Kalinowski. So he's sort of a more recent one. Let's see, who else? I tend to favor the people that I have some kind of connection with. So like I was obviously rooting on Matt Nost when he went up against Jeff Snyder, because Matt Nost is fellow SK Plus, and so I kind of tend to go for for those type of people.
Yeah, I think the easy answer is I love watching Christian compete. I think my favorite really goes back to one of my favorite Schmoedown episodes ever, and that's I really enjoy anytime Sam Witwer's on to compete. I think he's so fun to watch, and has this super in-depth knowledge of Star Wars and passion for Star Wars, and I love watching that. I also really like watching Rachel Cushing. I think she's incredibly talented and just fun to root for. From what I can remember, and I could be wrong, I'm not a stat guy, I'll leave that to Frank, but I feel like she always scores really high too. I like watching Rachel Cushing.
As far as how Jay and I would do as a team,
we've addressed this before.
We'd be horrible.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I posted it on Twitter earlier that this new Schmoedown app that's been announced, which congratulations for that. That's really cool. That all this does is it proves that the only thing that I would be good at would be holding the curtain for Finstock to walk out.
That's good. My only chance is Intergeekdom, honestly. And I don't know when the hell I would ever be on the Schmoedown, so I haven't been training for that. Even though it was like 3 months ago where I declared that I was training for the Intergeekdom. I got zero response from anybody about it. I just stopped.
I've actually given quite a bit of thought to this, and I'll tell you exactly why I wouldn't be good at the Schmoedown, and it's actually not as much like movie trivia knowledge related. It's the format. The format doesn't lend itself well to just how I think in general. Like, you have to come up with cold answers. I am great at Trivial Pursuit because you do get multiple choice, and that has its own set of strategy to it. Obviously, it's a much easier game, but it also means that there's a lot more parity, I think, in the competition itself. So, just coming up with cold answers like that is just something I'm not good at. I got a lot of shit going on inside my CTE-ridden brain.
Maybe down the line, I will participate in the Intergeekdom, but I don't think there will ever be a team with you and I on it.
No.
When is Ralph Lenardic gonna make his debut on After Schmoe? I don't know. It's not a yes or no. It's an I don't know, and that's all I'm gonna say about it. Ben Rayner, excuse me. What got you started watching Collider, AMC, and Schmoes? I'll answer this briefly because we have talked a lot about this. I didn't come in during the AMC days. I've seen a couple of those episodes though. I found the Schmoes. I found a stray episode of the Schmoes No Show when I was doing some research. on Lexi Alexander for an interview that I was doing with her. And later that year, I discovered the whole movie space and realized who they were, and then made the connection to Collider. And it was mainly just sort of a fascination that it existed in general, and then it sort of became a love of these people as well. That's the short answer.
Yeah, I've addressed this too a little bit, but the first time I was ever exposed to Schmoe's Know was actually via listening to the Joe Rogan. Actually, it wasn't the Joe Rogan Experience. It was sort of an offshoot called the Ice House Chronicles that's on the Death Squad Network, and Mark was on an episode of that, and he talked about having a YouTube channel where he reviewed movies, and I thought that was really cool, and I remember checking it out at the time, and I'd always known who the Schmoes were, but obviously it wasn't until just Ryan doing Film Beef and him getting involved with the space and whatnot that I became more knowledgeable of it, really. So
Ben Rayner also asks, are you guys fan of Curb? Ben,
No.
I don't know how much you know about me, but Seinfeld is sort of my spirit animal, so naturally I love Curb, and I'm freaking out about the premiere. What about you, Jay?
yeah, I actually have an update to this.
Okay.
So the short answer is no. I do enjoy watching clips of the show. I watched what is it? What's it called? Not Peruvian chicken episode. What's it called?
Oh the Palestinian chicken?
I thought it was unwatchable. It was too. I didn't enjoy it at all.
Wait, you watched the episode?
I watched the entire episode and I didn't enjoy it at all.
I was literally excited
I know it's
to talk about how genius that episode is.
I know it's one of the most celebrated episodes. I didn't care for it.
Ben Rayner again. Is this third question? Are you really in touch with Harloff, or is that a bit?
My interactions with Christian Harloff are hilarious.
We've never made up.
Yeah.
It's 100% true. Every time that we say we talked to Christian or haven't talked to Christian, we like to make it funny, but it's not a bit in the sense that it doesn't actually happen, and we fabricate our reactions.
I don't think
they're just like you said, they're just that weird.
They are very strange, and I don't think there is no rhythm to it. There is no pattern to it. It just sometimes it happens. I don't know if we ever went into it. Maybe we'll save it for another time. The story. Did we ever get into about the story when he was at his most chatty?
When he was trolling me?
Yeah, when he started a three-way chain with us.
That was the most absurd thing.
Oh my God, it was great.
It was somehow the most talkative, and at the same time, the least talkative he has ever been.
Oh
with me.
my God.
I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Well, yeah. We'll unveil it one day.
I'm going to pronounce your name wrong, so feel free to rip me in the comment section. Kali Sardina? Why do you guys hate Makuga? And I actually commented on this, saying, I can't wait to answer this. Why do you guys hate Makuga?
I mean, I just gain joy from every single failure he has in his entire life. His failure brings me joy.
Well, we can't really talk about failure. I mean, failure in the sense of he makes horrible jokes, but meanwhile he's also still hosting a show on the Travel Channel.
Look,
I was gonna make that joke about Epic Happy Hour. We'll talk about Epic Happy Hour.
I don't even know if that question was serious. My response was completely not serious at all. I have nothing against Josh Makuga. Josh Makuga is he is a guy that will say whatever is on his mind, and I love that about him. But also, our job here is to really closely examine things, and sometimes it's for the better and for the worse. I mean, we can be critical of just about anybody on the show, but he's so outspoken about things that sometimes he does feel the brunt of things. But we definitely don't hate him.
No, we don't hate Makuga.
I love Josh Makuga.
We don't.
I just tweeted about how fantastic he is the other day.
We didn't. We don't hate anybody involved in this space or the channel, whatever you want to say. So my thing about Makuga, and I think I spoke briefly about it last week or the week before.
Maybe they were thinking of a different version of the show.
Maybe they think you're Brian Davids.
Maybe, I don't know.
I mean, my honest take with Makuga is that Like, the only thing that I'll say, and I touched on this, all of my relationships with everyone in that studio, they're all very different. And they're all interesting in their own way. But my genuine feelings on sort of with Makuga, he's been a guest on this show. We've had some small interactions, and they've all just been like, I don't know how to take them. Like, about a couple of them that we've had privately, and they're just so. Again, you just don't know how to. I don't know how to take them, but the thing that I don't like is that
I have more beef with Max Landis than I do with Josh McCouga.
More than anyone. Like, we just talked about how absurd our conversation is with Christian, and how there's weird, funny disconnects to pretty much every conversation we have. The disconnect with Makuga is that he continues to just nonchalantly not acknowledge or care about the show or whatever in his own weird way, and that's fine. But my biggest problem with that is that he was a guest, and he's very aware of who I am, or at least he should be, and to continue this whole act like he still thinks we talk shit about him, and that the whole comments like, yeah, the last thing the main thing that I worry about is what the guys on After Schmoe say. Like, that whole attitude, it's nothing. Like, I don't know why that type of attitude still exists after I've done this show for a year and a half. So I just don't. I'm over that. I think it's played. I don't think it makes any sense. But to give him credit. What I like about Makuga, and the reason why I will still do things like campaign for the daily TV talk, even though I won't watch it every day, he's very talented, and nobody can take that away from him. I think what's fascinating about him is that he is not there because he also reviews movies and TV shows on their YouTube channel. Wendy does that. Perry does that now. It's like, what he is doing, he is there because he wants to make Josh McCouga a thing. That's why he has the Josh McCouga show. And we've seen last week, and he's now hosting a show for the Travel Channel. I mean, that's absolutely nuts. And I think McCouga brings his own thing to the table. And I appreciate that about him as a personality. So, I mean, yeah, I do have some complaints, but I mean, it's not hate, and I think we handle him the same way that we would handle anybody else. But he just so happens to make dumb jokes, and there are things that he does that we can kind of pick out more than other people. But I feel like that if anybody else was doing that, we would treat them the same way.
Yeah, I don't have any other take there.
Brad Donovan, has there ever been a question in the Schmoedown you thought was so ridiculously easy you laughed hard? For him, it was, what color was Rex in Toy Story? There have been plenty. I can't think of. I don't know off the top of my head.
Nothing specifically comes to mind. There was one the other day, actually. I think it might have been the Matt Nost match against Jeff Snyder, and I can't remember what it was, but it happens from time to time. But sometimes you get easy questions. Sometimes I actually don't like the reaction to easy questions. Oh my God. Sometimes it's the luck of the draw, Everybody has everybody.
I think it's funny when they do that.
I mean, it's funny, but it's sort of like, come on, guys.
If you guys could switch bodies with any of the Schmoe gang for a day, who would it be? Like, body type, or like whose body do I want?
Maybe just switch place. Like, I'd love to, this isn't my answer, but I'd love to be Josh McCouga for a day just so that I could host TV Talk or something like that, maybe.
Whose body do I want? If this was like a Freaky Friday scenario, I want to be this person for a day. It would probably be Cal.
Oh, yeah? You like that? You like Cal?
You can just...
I would want to be John Schnepp, because who knows what his day is like. I was talking about schedule. If there's anybody in that office who is probably not there most of the time, I feel like it's John Schnepp. And you never know. Maybe you get to do an episode of Comic Book Shopping one day.
Yeah.
Maybe you go smoke weed out by the dumpster. I have no idea.
I give a shitty answer. I'm sorry. Sorry, Tyler. Where do you see your podcast 5 years from now? Adrian.
Do they mean
Guerrero.
after Schmoe, or do they mean?
I think they
Sight and
mean
Sound?
after Schmoe.
Yeah.
My response is still kicking as long as the live show is in existence, but hosted by someone other than me.
Hopefully, I mean, just like anything we're involved with, obviously it takes additional resources, but I would love to see the show on video every single week. I would love to see it in an actual studio. I'd love for there to be some sort of live implementation of it. You know, I would love to see this show be more of an extension of the live show in terms of the overall attitude of it in general, to where it's more of a loose hang, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it'd be great. I love recapping the show, but it would also be great to just, you know, have it. Maybe we could just redo the after show that they did that we will never see, where people just get hammered and make fools of themselves.
Will you guys ever have other fans on, or any Collider people on?
We've already done that.
Yeah. And Kristen was an exception, to be honest. I still kind of have the same philosophy on that. I don't really have a whole lot of interest of having quote-unquote fans on the show, even though I would call you friends.
I've always had the same perception. I mean, obviously, I don't have as much to do with this show as I would Sight and Sound, but like with Sight and Sound Weekly, I would honestly, I mean, maybe I could see some big guest or something like that come in and help co-host with that. But
yeah,
Sight and Sound Weekly, a lot like After Schmoe, with the occasional exception, is always you and I. That's why we created something on Sight and Sound called After Party, to incorporate additional people. Maybe in the future we do something where there is an additional episode that's not what you know of After Schmoe. I don't know. That would be the only way I could fathom it being something that was more regular. You know what I'm saying?
And as far as having Collider people on, we've talked about it a whole lot. We're only interested in the people that we don't hear from as much. Like, I want Brett on, I want Perry on to sort of talk about that kind of. We're also not interested in the same type of conversation that they can have elsewhere. I'm not interested in the A to B. How did you get involved? Like, where did you come from? How did you get involved in this space? Like, all of that, everything that Beardo does, that's what he does. And
Knapsack Files.
I will let them do that. I would much rather them come on and just kind of hang. There's not a whole lot of there aren't a whole lot of produced moments on the live show, so you can't talk to Ben Bateman about the strategy of the live show like you can the Schmoedown. Like, it's not this. You can't have that same kind of conversation. So I would strictly just want those people to come on and just hang and just talk about whatever. But at the same time, scheduling that, making sure that happens on Thursday nights, I'm not really interested in doing that. Should there be a Kevin Smith week or day at Collider he could guest on all the shows? The week, probably not. Kevin Smith probably isn't going to make the trek just to be on a Collider show, depending on where he lives. I could see him being there for a day maybe, but
he does some podcast rounds around there. I mean, he's been on Fighting the Kid before. He's been on Joe Rogan. He's been on other podcasts. I don't have a problem with Kevin Smith. I've never been like the guy that's really bitten on every single thing that he does. I obviously know he has a big following and a diehard fan base, but I think he'd be good on the show. But I don't know if I could legitimately see them scheduling themselves around him.
Evan DeGraff, do you think Christian Harloff will ever make a diss track? I don't know what that means.
He means like a rap song, like where he's calling us out. I don't know what Christian's rap skills are like. I do remember a behind the scenes one time where he freestyled with like some app. So maybe. You never know.
Johan Bustamante wants to know if we're going to do another crossover show with Schmoedown Rundown this year. I tried to do it for the Collider Collision, and they already had plans for that. So I don't know. I mean, it just depends. I haven't really thought about it. I know that that's kind of approaching, but I haven't really thought all about it.
Yeah, my answer is I'm here. I'll podcast wherever I'm needed. We do it so much. It's sure. Why not add another one to it?
I'm trying to skim through these. Kevin Marks. Are there any biopics about any bands or artists that made you want to go back and listen to their music?
Yeah, 100%. No, maybe not necessarily a biopic, but a documentary that's like 5 fucking hours. The Eagles documentary was really, really good. One that I recommend to people. I think also not a biopic, but I think watching Across the Universe is a good movie just because it gives you just a really interesting perspective on songs you already know and love, and even like some deeper cuts from the Beatles. I think it elevates them to another level. And the last one is probably Walk the Line. I mean, if at all you've never been a Johnny Cash fan, I think that movie alone will make you a Johnny Cash fan.
I was going to say Across the Universe.
Yeah.
It got me into the Beatles before I just didn't really have an opinion.
Also, Some Kind of Monster by Metallica will make you really have a different perspective on that band.
Let's see. I only have a couple more. Elena Marie wants to know, if and when you come down to LA, what would you do first besides going to Burbank? I'm curious to know as an LA native.
Roscoe's Chicken and Waffles.
I would say In-N-Out Burger.
Yeah, that's both times I went to California. The first thing that I did, because I flew into San Jose Airport, there is a In-N-Out Burger like right across the street. It's the first thing I did both times that I went. Very interesting to do. You can feel like shit for the rest of the day. Honestly, I don't know. Probably, I don't know, man. Just be outside. Like, there's so much cool shit to do
That's
outside.
what I was going to say. And this is coming from someone who doesn't know a whole lot about the landscape of LA, but I would just love to be on the Santa Monica Pier.
Try to find Drake's house, Kanye's house, immediately. I had a friend once that tried to go into the Calabasas neighborhood to say he was going to go visit Drake, and the guy just turned him around.
Chris Dolman, our boy, he says he very much appreciates us having Kristen on after Schmoe. How do we return the favor? Christopher, you don't have to do anything to return the favor. I mean, if we can talk, if you want to do something with us, we can just talk about it. It's not it's not a favor thing.
Yeah, I mean, we're, like I said with the Schmoe thing, we're available to do anything. If you guys want us to do something on Take 3, we'll do it. Yeah, hit us up.
Couple people throw out U of L and Rick Pitino again, particularly Ace. Matthew Clopin. What was Snelling's outdated bit that he had planned months ago for when he called into the show?
I've known about this for a long time.
It was a version of me parodying Brian David's call into the show when he announced he was leaving after Schmoe to be on Schmoe Rundown. I had a version of that, and as time continued, I mean, they just celebrated their 1 year, so that was like a year ago. As time went on, and
half a year ago.
Yeah, excuse me. I'm sorry. Yeah, right. As time went on, it became less and less relevant. People would have forgotten it. They wouldn't have got it. And you know my whole stance. I'm not going to go on there. I'm not going to go on there and give them content. I'm not going to ask them. I'm not going to ask them if they think Marvel has a villain problem. So yeah, that's what it was. But again, it's very outdated.
Will you ever call back into the show?
Not unless if Christian acknowledges that he boxed me out. If he recognizes the fact that I truly had zero idea what that show was about because I had been at work and I just got in my car and called into the show because they fucking pressured me into doing it. If I have that conversation with him and then he says, "Look, you can call into the show and you can talk about, you can have the same kind of raccoon possum conversation that I had."
He provided criteria like he did to me.
Favorite burrito at Qdoba?
No burrito. I go bowl.
Ellis got in on this. Ellis said shredded beef with original queso, white rice, black beans, corn salsa, and extra hot salsa. I like Qdoba. Oh, and a side of tortilla soup.
Oh, here's the take. Actually, fuck Qdoba, and go to Chipotle instead because it's way better. No carbs. Get the bowl and every salsa that they have.
I actually get a pulled pork quesadilla, so I don't get a burrito.
Oh, I've found that out recently. I don't think I ever paid attention to it. We ate there together, and I was surprised.
What is one moment? This is the last question. Malcolm Goldie Lay wants to know, what is one moment that you have been ashamed to have happened?
I think for me it was, finally admitting to myself that Robert Meyer Burnett was camera shy. I think that was my moment. No, I don't think it's something I was necessarily ashamed of, but that whole thing that we did with the Schmoe down reaction.
You were not
video,
ashamed of that.
I wasn't ashamed of it at all. I think it was unfortunate how it went down. There was a lot of, I think, misunderstanding on Christian's part, on both of our parts. Just, I get where he was coming from and, all that stuff. I don't think anybody else really cared about it that much, but I understand why his reaction was the way that it was.
I'm trying to think if this is.
And if people don't know about it, it's not. I mean,
yeah.
I
remember there was one time when this troll, I guess, Christian had a history with some troll.
Oh yeah, I remember this.
You do?
I remember it because we talked about it. You and I. This is before I was on the show.
Yeah, he had. I guess he had some history with some troll, and I don't even remember the guy's name. But I didn't have any idea who it was. And after the show ended, he tweeted out and like criticizing the show. It was just like, oh, it was lame, blah blah blah. He just threw some kind of thing, and I think I was mentioned in it because again I was hosting the show, and I favorited the tweet. And I remember Christian getting so mad that I favorited that tweet. I don't know if ashamed is the word, but I remember just being like, yeah, okay, that didn't need to happen.
My only takeaway from that, and this is interesting, I don't know if I've ever really talked about this, but even before me being on After Schmoe, I've always... there's one particular thing about this that I feel like needs to be addressed. So you and I are like best friends, and
how you doing?
We confide in each other about stuff. Obviously, we collaborate together on this show. We collaborate together on Sight and Sound, and even before that, we live super close to each other, and we both podcasted. And when he started doing Schmoeville podcasts and all this stuff, like any friend would vent to somebody else about things. Like I always knew what was going on with the show. Yeah, always. So, for anybody that might be wondering about my context with this show, I've always had context of what was going on with the show. I've been watching you guys. I used to go through the comments every single... I don't know if I've ever said that. I used to go through every time. I would read every single comment that people left for Schmoeville Podcast and for Schmoeville Podcast.
Why did you do that exactly?
Because I wanted, I was happy with what you were doing. I found it fascinating. I found it interesting. I found the community great. And I just wanted to keep up with what the conversation was going on with this thing. I don't know if anybody knew that, but that's 100% true.
Actually, you know what? I'm glad this is the answer. I'm ashamed of the Leanne episode. I think that is just nothing. It shouldn't have happened. I was never for that. We did it anyway.
That wasn't your choice.
Yeah.
It wasn't even really her choice, was it?
No, she wanted to come on.
Okay.
No, she asked to come on.
And to be clear, you didn't not want her to come on the show.
Right.
It was under the circumstances.
Yeah, probably. It was just everything. It's like this just doesn't need to happen. Like that's not what I wanted After Schmoe to be.
Right.
Like
a source of drama or anything like that.
Right. Like I try to come up with like produce little bits here and there and kind of play up moments, but it's like I didn't want it to be part of the production as well.
Right.
Like,
the drama aspect.
I just didn't like that. So that whole kind of chapter of After Schmoe I'm kind of ashamed of, but anyway.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. No more questions.
No, we're all good.
Yeah, you can find me on social media at Jaye Williams, J to the A to the Y to the E on Twitter and Instagram. It's the same for both. Make sure you guys are checking out Sight and Sound. We just uploaded back-to-back 3-hour long episodes on SK Plus, so there is plenty of content for you there if you were just hungry for some more Ryan Snelling and Jaye Williams. I don't know if I have another 3 hour in me. I think it has legitimately taken years off of my life. I like doing them every once in a blue moon, but the last two have felt like a chore.
I would love to do a 3 hour pop culture show every day of the week so that I could have my version of the Le Batard show.
It will never be that as long as I'm involved. We can do 3 hours, but I'll make sure that's not the Le Batard show.
Yeah, because you have no desire to do anything produced.
I actually agree with that 100%. I don't enjoy it.
Yeah. Maybe I need a new partner. No, speaking of new partners, Kristen Smith came on Sight and Sound.
Did a great job.
And slayed and crushed it. I'm genuinely excited about the next time she's on. We talked about the Tomb Raider trailers. I know that some of that's outdated, but I wanted to shout out Kristen Smith because we talked about her being on After Schmoe as well. So anyway, she came on. We talked about those trailers from last week or the week before or whenever that was. And then we reviewed Wind River, and it was great. So definitely check that out on the Sight and Sound feed as well. And if you want to support me and Jay in our outside endeavors, please it depends on if you're talking in the subject or the predicate of the sentence. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel and our podcast, like we said. Next week, again, we might have a similar episode like this since we'll be discussing a pre-taped Schmoe's No Show. Maybe we'll do another Q&A. You never know. I appreciate your time. Much love, Schmoeville. Peace out.